What's up, guys? Welcome to G Whiskey. I'm Jeff. This is a channel where I offer my thoughts and opinions on a specific whiskey. And if you stick around to the end, I'll be giving it a score as well. If that sounds interesting, hit subscribe down below. And with that out of the way, let's jump into our review. Today, we're looking at the Aberlour A'bunadh Batch 80. Stick around. All right, Aberlour A'bunadh. This one is a classic. It's a legend. It is something I've looked at before on the channel. In fact, I've looked at a couple batches here before. But it's been a good amount of time. The last batch that I looked at here was batch number 69. What? This one here is batch 80, and I've crunched the numbers. That's a full 11 batches later, so I do feel like it's a good time to come back to this one. Aberlour is one of those whiskeys where I often complain that it was better back in the day. I seem to do that a lot. But it is still pretty consistently good. Of course, it's designed to be a batchy whiskey, so you have better ones, you have worse ones. But even the modern batches, it's big sherry, good intensity, high ABV. They're generally pretty solid. Now, people do talk about this one less than they used to nowadays. I feel like the discussion's more towards things like Glenallachie. But online, this still enjoys a pretty good reputation, and people who like big sherry are still buying this stuff up. Now, on whiskey base, this batch, batch 80, does have a lower score than any of the batches, the last 10 batches, so the batches in the 70s. I didn't review any 70s batches on this channel, but I did try a couple. I think I had like 72 and 76, I believe, and they were pretty solid. They were good. So I guess we'll see how this one goes. This one was released in the latter half of last year, late 2023, and I think there is now a batch 81 out on the market, but I don't know because I didn't check. Anyway, this is a whiskey that I do like to come back to every so often. Despite my complaints about it being better back in the day and all that, I still have a soft spot for this stuff. And as I said, even the modern batches, I do consider to be pretty solid. So let's see where we land on this stuff in 2024. Let's jump into our review. In the meantime, if you'll kindly leave a like down below, that would be greatly appreciated. For our specs, this one comes in at a spicy 61%. It's non-chill filtered, and our color is natural. So I still like these Aberlour bottles. I think they look really cool. They're going for that sort of craft look. They have these printed on labels and signatures, and the label looks ripped, but it's not ripped. And it's funny, I have a friend who doesn't like this look because he thinks the faux craft look is disingenuous, and he's like, it's not really hand signed. And I mean, yeah, of course it isn't. It's a look, it's fine. I think it's cool. We'll give it 4.5 out of 5. This does say non-chill filtered. It does not say natural color, which I always find a little bit strange. It says batch 80, matured in Spanish Oloroso sherry butts, and that's about it. So for looks, I think it's a really cool bottle. Our info is decent, but we are missing the natural color mention. All right, so I did add water to this. I recommend you do the same. Otherwise, it will be spicy. Our notes are classic sherry bomb here. So we get sweet red fruits, we get rum raisin, there's Christmas cake, there's cinnamon, there's dates, there's nuts. We also get honey, caramel, red apple skin, black pepper, and some drying oak spice. As I said, this is just classic sherry bomb stuff. On the palate and finish, even with water added, this is a really big arrival. It's very mouth coating. It's spicy. We get lots of sweet red fruits. We get nuts, mulled wine. We get figs, cherry cola, cinnamon, dark berries, blackberry jam, strawberry jam. We get a long finish on red fruits, sweet red fruits, and pepper. So A'bunadh is one of those whiskeys that by its very nature, it does vary, but it's not like this wild roller coaster. Yes, some batches are better than others, but like I said, generally it's pretty solid stuff, and A'bunadh is A'bunadh. For the most part, our flavors are pretty familiar. Or at least the batches that are pretty close together are. Of course, we've seen some pretty big flavor shifts over the last 15 years or so, but it's been gradual. All of that is to say that if you are a fan of other recent A'bunadhs, you're likely to enjoy this one. There are, of course, minor differences, and we'll get into those. But right out the gate, I will say that I like this. I think it's pretty good. Not only that, I would go so far as to say that it's still one of the better offerings in this style of whiskey. I prefer this to a lot of other cask strength sherry bombs in this price range. Now, this is going to piss some people off, but I prefer this to the Glenallachie 10 cask strength. I prefer it to the Arran Sherry cask, and I certainly prefer it to the Glenfarclas 105. Now, of course, if you go up in price, you're going to get better sherry bombs. This is not as good as something like this or this, but again, for its price range, yeah, very nice. Now, granted, cherry bombs are not my go-to style of whiskey these days. There was a time that they were, but that was ages ago. And I don't think this is a great whiskey, but I do think it's a very good whiskey. It's solid, it's enjoyable. Now, my last bottle that I reviewed of this, that was batch number 69, wink, that one I scored an 87. If you've been following the channel for a while, you know that I brought my scoring system down about a year and a half, 2 years ago, as did a few other reviewers at the time. And broadly speaking, most things would land about 2 points lower now. So that batch 69 wink would probably be around 85, which is still a very good score. Now, of course, I am going off of memory, and it's been a while since I had that batch, but I do remember liking that one more than I enjoyed this one, but only slightly. This one is big sweet and big spicy with a lot of very powerful, very intense, I guess we could call them top notes, and then a lot of very prickly spice underneath that. Now, of course, water does mitigate that spiciness, but it's a hot whiskey. And listen, there's a lot of people out there who do not mind adding water at all. There's people who add water to every whiskey they drink. I'm not one of them, but that's fine if you are. Of course, you can customize the intensity when you add water. Not only that, you could also argue that it's a better value prospect because with each glass you're adding water to it. You're getting more bang for buck from your whiskey, which, yeah, it's true. But when I think about this whiskey in particular and compare it to the last batch that I reviewed on the channel, that last batch I did add water to, but I didn't have to add water to it. I added water because I wanted to. Whereas this one, I feel like I have to, otherwise it's too spicy, it's too prickly. Whereas the other one I could handle neat. And that one was actually slightly higher in terms of ABV. That one was 61.2, I believe. Still, that's a pretty minor gripe. Like, it's not ruining the whiskey for me. I still thoroughly enjoy this stuff, but it is something to be aware of, especially if you're someone who's sensitive to that prickle, that heat in whiskey, higher ABV whiskeys, because this is not one of those whiskeys where at 61%, you say, I can't believe this is 61%. You can believe it. But as I said, just add a little bit of water and you should be fine. Beyond that, yeah, I mean, this is a pretty standard A'bunadh. Is it one of the better batches? Absolutely not. Is it one of the worst batches? Absolutely not. Maybe slightly below the average, but keep in mind for A'bunadh, the average is, it's a pretty good whiskey. So for score, I'm going to land on 84 here, but it's a warm 84. Because while I think this is a good whiskey and not a great whiskey, I still do have a soft spot for Aberlour A'bunadh, and this has great reachability. It's spicy, it's big, and it's a lot of fun. So it is worth grabbing. That's what she said. Now, before we jump into value, I do want to say thank you to all my channel members and my patrons. Guys, thank you so much for the support. And if you want to help out, if you want to help keep the channel financially sustainable and independent, there are a number of ways that you can help. I've got both Patreon and PayPal listed down below. Anything and everything helps. And once again, a huge thank you to those of you who are already supporting the channel. Now let's see if this is worth it. So this is pretty good value. Now there was a while over the last maybe 2 years or so where this shot up in price and it was a good like $10 to $15 more expensive than it usually was in Taiwan, but it seems like it's since kind of stabilized and has come back down. And of course, I do live in a very cheap market for single malt whiskeys. So where I live, this sells for about 60 US, so just shy of 50 pounds, and it's definitely worth that price. Like I said, this is a very enjoyable cask strength sherry bomb, and it's one of the best in class within this price range. So it's definitely recommended. Okay, so that brings us to the end of today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. And of course, I want to hear from you. So have you tried batch 80 of the Aberlour A'bunadh? What other recent batches have you tried? What did you think of them? Have you compared any of them? Let me know all of that down below. Also down below, you can let me know what you want to see me review down the line, and I'll keep that in mind for my upcoming videos. Bye, guys.